Hey, welcome back. I hope you're having an amazing day. Today, we're going to be going over bass and samples, just adding bass on top of samples, which could be a bit challenging. At least for me, it is, even though I've been making beats for a very long time, just because you're blending two different samples and you're doing your best to match them in key. Now, one thing I do want to say before I jump any further is I do not play music. I don't know musical language. I just play it by ear. And I do my best to trust my ears when I'm matching the bass and the sample together. Now, I did do a video on this topic a while ago, but I'm using a bass sample with an actual sample. But in this video, it's going to be a little different because I'm going to be using a sample, and the bass that I will be using is going to be from a VST that's provided to us in our MPC. So if you got your MPC 1, MPC Live, or MPC Studio, you're more than welcome to follow along because you will also have this bass synth in your MPC. Now, right here, I have a beat that I put together a while ago. It's just going to be drums and sample. I'll let you hear a little bit of this beat. Now, on track 1, I have my sample. And on track 2, I got my one-shots. Now, these one-shots are part of my new sample pack, so if you guys are feeling the way they sound, make sure you guys check it out. Link down in the description. Another way to support the channel. Now, on my previous video that I talked about this topic, I actually added a bass sample. It was just a one-shot sample of a bass note on top of my sample, and I just did my best to match the key together, which I feel like is a little easier to do. But right now, I'm actually not going to use another bass sample. I'm actually going to go to an empty track, which is going to be in track 3, and I'm going to go into my plugins. Right here, I have my different instrument synthesizers, and I go into my sounds, and I want to make sure I go into bass. Right here in bass, this is a plugin that you should also have if you're up to date. I'm actually going to go to this preview page or a folder, and I'm going to go to the drive. This drive, it's a pretty distorted and definitely has a lot of character to this bass sound. Now, I'm not going to use this preset, but I'm going to use the preset right now just to help me find the key to that sample because it just has so much character. I can hear it. And sometimes if you pick a subby bass, you don't really hear the key of that, but you just feel that subby bass. Once I find the key of the bass and the sample, then I'll go ahead and switch it to a different preset so we can go with something that's a little better with the sample. So if I go to my main menu or to my main page right here, I'm actually gonna go into track number 1. Track number 1 is where I have my sample. And one thing that's really cool about the MPCs is that they actually, with the latest update, they have a way that you could detect the key. Well, actually the MPC will detect the key of the sample. So right now, in order for me to see what key the sample is in, I'm going to go into the program editor. I'm going to go into the second page, not in global, but I'm going to jump into the samples page. And in this samples page, I'm going to go ahead and just hit any sample that I'm using in this sequence, which is I'm actually using these two. These samples right here, the MPC is telling me that is detecting the key of these pads and is detecting that it's in B minor. As you guys can see, it's going to give me the key right here. All these samples are in B minor. Now, again, like I mentioned, I'm not a musician. I don't know anything about musical language, so I'm assuming that this sample is in B minor. Now that I know that is in B minor, I'm going to go back to my bass track. So that was in track number 3. Now in track number 3, I have these notes right here. This is a scale that I have going on right here. I'm going to jump into my pad perform. And in my pad perform, I'm going to go right here to chromatic, notes, chords. I'm going to leave it in chromatic. And down here is also going to be in chromatic. And remember that the sample was detected at B minor. So right here, I don't know what yours is going to say, but if yours says B minor or A, G, whatever key is in, make sure you go to where it says B, or at least whatever it is that's matching your sample. For me, it was B minor. This key right here should technically be matching the sample if I hit play and I hit this note. That's actually not too bad. That's very close. Now that I have my bass plugin matching the actual sample, I can go ahead and I'm gonna leave it on these higher octaves for right now. I'm gonna hit play and I'm just gonna have some fun and try my best to come up with a melody that feels right to me. If I'm hitting anything within these yellow pads with that sample, it should be in key. So I can go ahead and start. Now, if I hit one of these black keys, it's gonna sound a little off, but it doesn't mean that you cannot hit these black keys. You can experiment and do whatever you want, but all these yellow keys should be in that scale of B minor. Usually with like this type of boom bap style of music, I don't like to get too complicated and add too many notes. I'm very simple. As a matter of fact, I'm thinking of just sticking with. So now that I chose what melody I want to stick with, I'm going to go ahead and record this onto the grid of the MPC or into the sequence. But before I do that, I got two choices right now. Either I can just drop down the octaves. I'm going to drop down 2 octaves. Oh, that's actually very low. Okay, I'll drop down 1 octave. I'm actually going to go back to my sound bank and go back into this bass plugin, into preview. I'm going to try a different preset. Now that I know the melody I'm going to stick with, I can do a better decision on what preset of a bass I want to stick with. I actually like the sub sound. I'm sure you're probably not going to be able to hear it through your speakers of your iPhone if that's what you're listening on, but I actually like how this sounds through my headphones, so I'm going to stick with the sound. Again, I can change this later on. That's the really cool thing about using a bass synth within the MPC, that you could lay that down on your grid, and if you don't like it, you can change it later, versus using an actual sample of a bass that you picked up from somebody's sample pack. You cannot change that sound. You got to commit to that sound. I'm going to go ahead and lay this down on the grid. I'm not going to be in quantize. Usually with my bass, I like to be a little loose, a little late, preferably. So I'm going to go ahead and lay this down. All right, so I actually like how that sounds. One thing I do want to mention, right now, I mean, within this video, I felt like the sample and the key, the way it matched, it actually matched really good. I was hoping it was a little off, but let's just say that your sample was a little off. What would I do in that case? Because trust me, it does happen a lot. And I would actually go back into my bass and let's choose a bass let's go back into our drive bass so we can really hear it. And I'm gonna just loop the first bar. I'm gonna delete what I have right here. And I'm gonna just hit 1 note and I'm gonna just let it ring out for the whole bar. Obviously, I'm not going to put out my track like this, but I'm just letting that bass note ring out. It was a little off. Let's say the sample sounded too sharp or too low and I need to like pitch it up a few semitones up or down. I would let that long note just ring out, and then I would jump back into my sample, and in my sample, I jump into my program editor and I go into my samples page. And being in this samples page, make sure you go to this middle icon and you're selected in all. So make sure all is selected. And right here, it says B minor, but if it's a little off, I like to go into this fine tune or this fine setting right here. I hit play and I start matching the pitch of that sample to adjust to that bass synth. I'm obviously off right now, but as you can hear how crazy. You can manipulate this. I actually feel minus 16 with this fine setting. Sounds very good to me. That's what I feel. That's how it sounds to me. Again, I'm not a musician. You're going to have to do your best to trust your hearing. And sometimes this happens if you're wearing headphones. Whatever headphones you might be wearing could be a little off. So I highly recommend that you could listen to this in your headphones and also plug your MPC to your speakers so you could hear it in different sources, because it's happened to me before where I'm like, yo, I'm so in key, and then I'll listen to it in some speakers or in my car and I'm like, what was I thinking? I was so off key. So make sure you're referencing not just in one source, but preferably in 1 or 2 different sources. So now that you're in key, let's say after you pitch this a few semitones up or down, like that sounds like it's in key. I go back to my grid, go from my sample track into my bass track. Obviously, I'm gonna delete that long note, and right here I can just start going to town with these yellow pads and perform anything that I want. And right here I can actually go into the subs, try different settings. Let's try the saw. Right here, the choices or the sounds that the MPC provides us with this bass synth line or the bass synth instrument. I mean, you got a lot of different options. Now, before I go any further, I just really want to say thank you. Thank you for everybody that's been here. And I'm just really happy. I'm excited that I'm right here. I'm pretty much alive today. I know it's off topic, but I'm just very thankful. And if you're watching this video, I think you ought to be thankful. I'm sure whatever's going on in your life, if you're alive and you're just watching this video, you're good. I don't know who has to hear that, but let's continue on the video. Now, I'm gonna go ahead and leave you guys right here. I really wanted to put this out because I know a lot of people were asking, and thank you so much for those of you that go down in the comments and start, putting some requests for videos to do. I really appreciate it. Thank you for interacting with me, and I do my best to interact with you as well. So thank you so much for being a part of this community. You're not just somebody that's watching a video, but you're somebody that is a part of this channel, and thank you. Thank you so much. I'm gonna leave you guys right here. Again, if you guys got good value out of this video, make sure you guys give this a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe if you're not subscribed to this channel. Y'all have a blessed day. I'll catch y'all on our next video. Peace.